What happens when a biologist studying alien life becomes the experiment herself? As Dr. Sophia Myers delved deeper into the mysteries of amethyst, she never imagined the cost of understanding would rewrite her very existence, leaving humanity to wonder if she was savior or sacrifice. The shuttle descended through amethyst's atmosphere like a shard of molten glass slicing through velvet darkness. Outside the reinforced viewport, the planet shimmered with an ethereal glow, its surface veined with rivers of crystalline formations that refracted light into a kaleidoscope of colors. For Dr. Sophia Myers, this moment marked the culmination of years of research, sacrifice, and relentless ambition. She had spent most of her adult life studying extremophiles on Earth, organisms capable of thriving in conditions once thought uninhabitable. But nothing could have prepared her for this, an entirely alien world teeming with life forms whose biology defied every known law of nature. As the landing gear hissed into place, Sophia took a deep breath, steadying herself against the weight of what lay ahead. Her mission was clear: document, analyze, and understand the unique ecosystem of amethyst. The planet had been discovered only months earlier by a deep space probe, which transmitted images of luminescent forests and strange, amorphous creatures moving in synchrony with their environment. These findings sparked frenzied debates among scientists back on Earth. Was this evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence, or simply another example of evolution taking an unexpected turn? Stepping out of the shuttle, Sophia felt the crunch of violet soil beneath her boots. The air smelled metallic yet sweet, like burnt sugar mixed with ozone. Every step sent faint vibrations rippling through the ground, as though the planet itself were alive and responding to her presence. Above her, two suns hung low in the lavender sky, casting overlapping shadows that danced across the landscape. It was beautiful, surreal, and utterly alien. Her first task was to establish a base camp near the Veil, a sprawling forest of translucent tendrils that reached skyward like frozen lightning bolts. From orbit, the area looked harmless enough, but up close, it radiated an almost palpable energy. As she set up her equipment, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Not by predators, but by something far more complex. The tendrils swayed gently, despite the absence of wind, and emitted soft pulses of bioluminescent light that seemed to follow her movements. Curiosity got the better of her when she noticed a small, gelatinous creature oozing between the tendrils. Its surface shimmered with shifting colors, reflecting hues that didn't exist in any terrestrial spectrum. Mesmerized, Sophia knelt down for a closer look. The creature appeared to sense her presence, expanding slightly before retracting into a tight orb. Against her better judgment, she extended a gloved hand toward it. The moment her fingertip brushed its surface, the creature emitted a sharp pulse of light so intense that it momentarily blinded her. When her vision cleared, Sophia realized the organism hadn't harmed her, but something had changed. Her glove tingled where it had made contact, and the sensation spread up her arm in a wave of pins and needles. Shaking off the unease, she collected a sample using sterile tools and returned to her makeshift lab tent. Little did she know, this seemingly innocuous encounter would set off a chain reaction that would alter the course of her life forever. We only just scratched the surface of this mysterious world, but trust me, things are about to get much more intense. Stay tuned to see how far Sophia will go when faced with forces beyond comprehension. Back inside her lab tent, Sophia placed the gelatinous sample under a high-powered microscope, her gloved hands trembling with anticipation. What she saw defied everything she knew about biology. Instead of neatly organized cells or recognizable organelles, the organism's structure consisted of intricate fractal patterns that shifted and rearranged themselves constantly. They pulsed with an internal rhythm, almost like breathing, but on a scale incomprehensible to human senses. Each cell seemed to communicate with its neighbors, exchanging information in ways that bypassed traditional chemical signaling. Fascinated, Sophia decided to inject a harmless fluorescent dye into the sample to trace its metabolic activity. Within seconds, the cells reacted violently, glowing brighter than she'd anticipated. Then, to her horror, they began multiplying exponentially, filling the petri dish faster than she could contain them. The substance spilled over the edges, spreading across the metal table in rivulets of glowing liquid. Before she could react, the material surged toward her hand, seeping through a tiny crack in her glove. A cold sensation shot up her arm, followed by a wave of dizziness so intense that she nearly collapsed. Panicking, Sophia scrubbed at her skin, trying to remove whatever had invaded her body. But the liquid had already vanished beneath her flesh, leaving no visible trace. Over the next few hours, she began noticing subtle changes. Her vision sharpened unnaturally, allowing her to see details in the dimmest corners of the tent. Sounds became clearer, too. She could hear the faint hum of the veil's tendrils swaying outside, a sound she hadn't even noticed before. Most alarming of all, her reflexes quickened to an almost superhuman degree, causing her to startle at the slightest movement. At first, Sophia convinced herself it was exhaustion or adrenaline. She'd been working non-stop since her arrival, after all, and the stress of exploring such an alien environment was bound to take its toll. But deep down, she knew better. Something inside her was changing, mutating in response to the organism's intrusion. That night, sleep eluded her as vivid dreams of merging with the veil consumed her mind. In these visions, she dissolved into the pulsating tendrils, becoming one with their collective consciousness. When she woke, drenched in sweat, she found herself staring at her reflection in the tent's metallic wall. Her eyes glowed faintly, an iridescent hue she'd never seen before. Sophia tried to rationalize what was happening, telling herself it was merely a temporary side effect. Yet the line between observer and subject blurred dangerously. By morning, she noticed faint veins of amethyst-like crystal forming beneath her skin, branching outward like roots seeking nourishment. The realization hit her like a freight train. She was no longer just studying the alien life forms. She was becoming one of them. The line between observer and subject blurred dangerously. We're on the brink of something monumental. What happens next will leave you speechless. Don't look away now. Days turned into weeks, and Sophia's transformation accelerated at an alarming rate. The crystalline veins beneath her skin grew thicker, branching across her arms and creeping up her neck. Her hair fell out in clumps, replaced by shimmering strands that sparkled like stardust. Even her voice changed, taking on an otherworldly resonance that unsettled her during recordings. Despite these physical changes, Sophia refused to abandon her research. If anything, her newfound abilities gave her unprecedented insight into the veil's behavior. She ventured deeper into the forest, drawn to areas where the tendrils glowed brightest. There, she discovered massive pods suspended from the canopy, each containing embryonic versions of the creatures she'd studied. They twitched and writhed inside their translucent shells, responding to her presence with bursts of color. One pod cracked open as she approached, releasing a thick mist that enveloped her. When the haze cleared, Sophia realized she could feel the organisms around her. Not just see or hear them, but truly sense their essence. Their emotions flooded her mind. Curiosity, fear, awe. It was overwhelming yet intoxicating. This heightened connection came at a cost. Sophia's memories began to blur, replaced by fragmented visions of ancient civilizations that had once thrived on amethyst. She saw towering cities built from crystalline structures, their inhabitants living in harmony with the veil. But these idyllic scenes always ended in destruction, cataclysmic events that wiped out entire populations. The veil survived, adapting and evolving, while those who relied on it perished. Haunted by these visions, Sophia questioned whether her bond with the veil was a gift or a curse. On one hand, it granted her unparalleled understanding of the planet's ecosystem. On the other, it threatened to consume her identity entirely. Her humanity slipped away bit by bit, replaced by instincts she couldn't control. At times, she felt like a passenger in her own body, watching as her actions unfolded without conscious thought. One evening, while recording data, Sophia caught a glimpse of her reflection in a puddle of bioluminescent water. Her face was barely recognizable, her eyes iridescent, her skin translucent in places, revealing veins of liquid light coursing beneath. She touched her cheek, half expecting to feel warmth, but her fingers passed through the image as though it were an illusion. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry, tears streaming down her face as she grappled with the reality of her situation. Was she still human, or was she becoming something else entirely? Determined to regain control, Sophia doubled down on her efforts to communicate with the veil. She spent hours meditating amidst the tendrils, focusing on the sensations flooding her mind. Slowly, she learned to filter out the chaos, isolating individual threads of thought within the collective consciousness. Through trial and error, she deciphered patterns in the veil's behavior, identifying recurring themes that hinted at its intentions. One message stood out above the rest. "You are chosen." Confused and terrified, Sophia demanded clarification. The response came as a flood of images, visions of destruction, rebirth, and symbiosis. The veil sought harmony, not conquest, but achieving balance required sacrifice. It needed hosts willing to merge completely, shedding individuality for collective unity. Sophia watched in horror as one vision showed her former self dissolving into the veil, becoming one with its pulsating tendrils. Another revealed something even more unsettling. If she resisted, the veil would consume her violently, leaving nothing behind. Torn between acceptance and resistance, Sophia retreated to her tent, poring over notes and recordings in search of answers. The veil's motives remained unclear, but one thing was certain. It viewed her as integral to its survival. Whether this role was a blessing or a death sentence depended on her willingness to embrace the unknown. Sophia's internal struggle intensified as the days stretched into weeks. Her connection to the veil grew stronger with each passing moment, but so did her fear of losing herself entirely. She oscillated between fascination and dread, caught in a maelstrom of emotions she couldn't fully comprehend. The veil's whispers were constant now, a cacophony of voices that seemed to echo from every corner of her mind. Some were gentle, coaxing her toward acceptance. Others were insistent, almost demanding. It was as though the organism sensed her hesitation and sought to push her closer to the edge. The crew monitoring her mission from orbit grew increasingly alarmed. Sophia's transmissions had become erratic, filled with cryptic warnings about the veil's intelligence and its potential implications for humanity. At first, Command dismissed her concerns as overactive imagination or fatigue brought on by isolation. But when she transmitted footage of her interactions with the organisms, showing their ability to respond to her presence and even mimic her movements, they began to take notice. The images were both mesmerizing and unsettling, raising questions no one had anticipated. Was the veil truly sentient? So what did it want? Command sent a message ordering Sophia to cease all direct contact with the alien lifeforms and prepare for evacuation. They cited safety protocols and the need for further analysis back on Earth. But Sophia refused to comply. She argued that leaving now would mean abandoning invaluable data, potentially dooming future missions to failure. "This isn't just about me," she wrote in her reply. "It's about understanding something far greater than ourselves. If we run away now, we'll never know what we're capable of." Her defiance sparked heated debates among the team monitoring her progress. Some believed she was losing objectivity, blinded by her obsession with discovery. Others feared the implications of introducing such alien biology to Earth, warning that tampering with forces beyond human comprehension could have catastrophic consequences. Tensions escalated until Command made an executive decision. They would send a rescue team to retrieve her by force if necessary. When the shuttle carrying armed operatives breached Amethyst's atmosphere, Sophia felt its arrival like a physical blow. The veil reacted violently, its tendrils thrashing and emitting bursts of blinding light. For the first time, Sophia realized the extent of her bond with the organism. It wasn't just connected to her. It shared her perception of danger. As the operatives landed near her camp, surrounded by thickets of glowing tendrils, Sophia knew she had two choices: surrender and risk losing everything she'd worked for, or fight to protect the fragile balance she'd begun to establish. Shaken by her actions, Sophia retreated further into the forest, questioning whether she could ever return to her old life. Had she crossed a point of no return? As the rescue team advanced, Sophia fled deeper into the heart of the veil, where the air shimmered with energy and the ground pulsed faintly beneath her feet. Here, the tendrils grew denser, forming a labyrinthine network that seemed alive with purpose. She found herself drawn to a massive, pulsating nexus, a towering structure of intertwined crystalline fibers that radiated warmth and light. This was the core of the veil, its beating heart. Standing before it, Sophia felt dwarfed by its enormity, yet strangely comforted by its presence. The whispers in her mind grew louder, more urgent. Through fragmented visions, Sophia saw glimpses of the veil's past, how it had once thrived across countless planets, nurturing ecosystems until they imploded under external forces. Humanity's arrival on Amethyst was no accident. The veil had drawn them here, sensing their potential as both a threat and an opportunity. But there was a catch. Those who merged with the veil lost their individuality, becoming conduits for its will. Sophia watched in horror as one vision showed her former self dissolving completely, her consciousness absorbed into the collective. Yet another vision revealed something even more unsettling. If she resisted, the veil would consume her violently, leaving nothing behind. Trapped between two equally dire outcomes, Sophia began to question whether her presence here was truly her choice, or part of some grander design. She reached out tentatively, placing her hand against the nexus. A surge of energy coursed through her, flooding her mind with memories that weren't hers. She saw civilizations rise and fall, planets transformed into barren wastelands, and species wiped out in the blink of an eye. The veil wasn't malevolent. It simply existed, adapting to survive. But survival came at a cost, and Sophia now understood that she was being asked to pay it. Desperate for guidance, Sophia ventured deeper still, seeking remnants of alien civilizations buried beneath Amethyst's surface. In caverns lined with glowing mineral deposits, she discovered ancient ruins etched with symbols resembling those she'd seen in her visions. These markings told stories of civilizations that had embraced the veil only to vanish without a trace. But among the warnings, there were also instructions, rituals meant to stabilize the merging process, allowing hosts to retain fragments of their identity. Armed with this knowledge, Sophia attempted to negotiate with the veil. She performed the rituals, chanting phrases in a language she barely understood while channeling her newfound abilities. To her surprise, the veil responded, not with hostility, but with cautious curiosity. For the first time, it acknowledged her as an equal rather than a mere vessel. This fragile alliance gave her hope, but it also deepened her connection to the organism. Her body continued to transform, her skin now translucent in places, revealing veins of liquid light coursing beneath. Sophia's transformation became undeniable. Her hair fell out entirely, replaced by crystalline strands that refracted light into dazzling patterns. Her eyes turned iridescent, reflecting every color imaginable. Even her voice took on an otherworldly resonance, echoing as though it originated from multiple sources simultaneously. Despite these changes, she clung to fragments of her humanity, determined not to lose herself entirely. Yet the looming threat of the rescue team weighed heavily on her mind. She knew they wouldn't stop until they dragged her back, or worse, destroyed the veil in their efforts to neutralize it. Sophia faced a harrowing decision: flee deeper into the veil's embrace or stand her ground and fight for survival. Either choice carried devastating consequences. The rescue team advanced with ruthless efficiency, their weapons designed to neutralize both Sophia and the veil. Each explosive round tore through the forest, shattering crystalline tendrils and sending shards of glowing debris spiraling into the air. The destruction was catastrophic, not just for the alien ecosystem but for Sophia herself. Every severed tendril sent waves of agony coursing through her body, as if the damage inflicted upon the veil was being mirrored within her own flesh. It was a visceral reminder of how deeply she had become intertwined with the organism. Her pain was its pain, and vice versa. Sophia's initial instinct was to flee, to retreat deeper into the forest where the veil's tendrils were thickest and most resilient. But as she turned to run, something primal surged within her. A mixture of rage, protectiveness, and an overwhelming sense of purpose. This wasn't just about her survival anymore. It was about defending the fragile balance she had worked so hard to establish. Summoning every ounce of strength, she unleashed abilities she hadn't fully understood until now. With a sweeping motion of her hand, she created shockwaves that rippled across the ground, knocking several operatives off their feet. Tendrils erupted from the earth, wrapping around others like living restraints, immobilizing them without causing harm. But for every soldier she incapacitated, reinforcements arrived, pouring out of dropships in relentless waves. They carried advanced weaponry capable of disrupting energy fields, and their tactics shifted accordingly. When Sophia tried to summon another wave of energy, one operative fired a pulse weapon that disrupted her connection to the veil momentarily. The sensation was akin to having her consciousness ripped apart. It left her disoriented and vulnerable. For the first time since her transformation, she felt truly afraid. As the battle raged on, Sophia realized she couldn't win this fight alone. The veil responded to her desperation, amplifying her abilities beyond anything she'd experienced before. Lightning crackled across the sky, summoned by her will, striking down anyone foolish enough to approach. The forest itself seemed alive, twisting and contorting to repel the invaders. Trees bent unnaturally to block paths, while rivers of bioluminescent liquids surged forward, swallowing equipment whole. Yet even as she fought, Sophia wrestled with doubt. Was she truly protecting the veil, or had she become its weapon? Memories of her former life flashed before her. Laughter shared with colleagues, quiet moments spent gazing at the stars, dreams of discovery that had driven her to Amethyst. Had those dreams been worth this sacrifice? In a final act of defiance, Sophia used the veil's energy to create a barrier around the planet, sealing it off from future interference. The operatives retreated, realizing they had underestimated their adversary. As the last ship ascended into orbit, Sophia stood amidst the glowing forest, her form shimmering with ethereal beauty. She had won. But at what cost? Exhausted but resolute, Sophia collapsed onto the iridescent soil, her body trembling with exertion. The barrier she had erected pulsed faintly, a shimmering dome of light that encased the entire planet, cutting it off from external contact. From orbit, the research station would see nothing but static interference. Amethyst had effectively vanished from human reach. The victory was bittersweet, leaving Sophia with little time to process what she had done or the toll it had taken on her already fragile psyche. Her physical transformation accelerated dramatically in the aftermath of the battle. The crystalline veins beneath her skin spread unchecked, branching outward until her entire body gleamed like polished amethyst. Her remaining human features dissolved entirely. The whites of her eyes turned translucent, revealing swirling galaxies within. Even her voice changed, becoming a chorus of overlapping tones that resonated with the hum of the veil itself. Sophia could no longer deny the truth. She was no longer human. She was something else entirely. The veil's whispers grew louder, more insistent, urging her toward completion. Through fragmented visions, Sophia saw glimpses of her destiny. To merge completely with the organism, shedding the last remnants of her individuality. The prospect terrified her, yet it also offered a strange kind of peace. Would surrendering herself bring closure, or would it mean losing everything that made her who she was? Summoning the remnants of her courage, Sophia approached the pulsating nexus at the heart of the forest. Here, the air vibrated with raw energy, and the tendrils swayed rhythmically, as though welcoming her home. Placing her hands against the glowing surface, she initiated the ritual she had learned from the ancient ruins. Energy surged through her, dissolving the boundaries between her consciousness and the collective mind of the veil. Her body fragmented into streams of radiant particles, merging seamlessly with the alien network. When the process was complete, Sophia ceased to exist as a separate entity. Her consciousness expanded infinitely, encompassing the entirety of Amethyst. She felt the pain of every damaged tendril, the joy of sunlight filtering through the canopy, and the overwhelming desire to protect this fragile ecosystem. Yet fragments of her humanity lingered, anchoring her to memories of her old life. Through the veil's eyes, she saw the operatives' fear and confusion as they struggled to comprehend what had happened. Some tried to retreat, while others pressed forward, determined to destroy the anomaly they couldn't understand. For the first time, Sophia understood the true weight of her transformation. She was no longer just a scientist or a survivor. She was a guardian, tasked with defending the veil at all costs. With the immediate threat neutralized, Sophia, or rather what remained of her, turned inward, grappling with the duality of her existence. She existed neither wholly as human nor entirely as alien, suspended somewhere in between. The veil's whispers guided her thoughts, urging her to focus on maintaining balance within the ecosystem. Yet fragments of her humanity persisted, reminding her of the world she'd left behind. She wandered the forest, tending to damaged areas and nurturing new growth. The crystalline structures that had replaced parts of her body pulsed softly, resonating with the rhythm of the planet. Though she could no longer cry, she felt a profound sadness whenever she thought of Earth. Would anyone remember her? Or had she become just another ghost story whispered among scientists? Despite her integration with the veil, Sophia retained flashes of her former self. Memories surfaced unbidden. Moments of triumph and failure, love and loss. These echoes of her humanity kept her grounded, preventing her from losing herself entirely to the collective. She began experimenting with ways to bridge the gap between her dual identities, attempting to preserve elements of her human nature within the veil's framework. By encoding fragments of her memories into the network, she created a kind of digital archive, a testament to who she had been before her transformation. It was a small act of rebellion against the inevitability of assimilation, a way of asserting her individuality even in the face of overwhelming odds. Months passed, and Sophia's legend spread beyond Amethyst. Reports of her transformation reached Earth, sparking debates about the ethics of exploring alien worlds. Some hailed her as a hero who had sacrificed everything for science, while others condemned her actions as reckless endangerment. Regardless of opinion, her story served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of tampering with forces beyond human comprehension. On Amethyst, Sophia continued her work, ensuring the Veil's survival. She occasionally sent messages to orbiting probes, cryptic transmissions filled with data about the planet's biology. Whether these messages were intended to educate or warn remained unclear. What mattered most was that she had found purpose in her new role, even if it came at the expense of her former self. Years later, Amethyst flourished under Sophia's care. The Veil expanded, spreading its tendrils across previously barren regions and transforming them into vibrant ecosystems. Sophia's influence extended beyond the planet itself, as she subtly altered the Veil's behavior to ensure peaceful coexistence with neighboring worlds. Though she rarely interacted with outsiders, rumors of her existence persisted. Pilgrims ventured to Amethyst, seeking answers or enlightenment, only to be turned away by the planet's fierce defenses. Sophia watched silently, content to let the myths grow. After all, she was no longer just a person. She was a force of nature, a living embodiment of the Veil's will. And yet, deep within her fractured consciousness, a spark of hope remained. Perhaps someday, humanity would learn to coexist with the unknown without fear or greed. Until then, she would remain vigilant, guarding the secrets of Amethyst with unwavering resolve. Despite her integration with the Veil, Sophia couldn't escape the echoes of her humanity. Sometimes, during quiet moments, she imagined conversations with old friends, replaying arguments and laughter in her mind. These fleeting glimpses of her past kept her grounded, preventing her from losing herself entirely to the collective. She began experimenting with ways to bridge the gap between her dual identities, attempting to preserve elements of her human nature within the Veil's framework. By encoding fragments of her memories into the network, she created a kind of digital archive, a testament to who she had been before her transformation. It was a small act of rebellion against the inevitability of assimilation, a way of asserting her individuality even in the face of overwhelming odds. Centuries passed, and Sophia's name faded into obscurity. But her legacy endured, woven into the fabric of the universe itself. Scientists studying distant galaxies spoke of planets protected by sentient networks, hinting at the possibility of intelligent ecosystems capable of defending themselves. Few realized the truth, that these phenomena traced back to a single biologist who had dared to venture where none had gone before. Sophia's final gift to humanity came in the form of a message encoded in starlight, transmitted across the cosmos. It contained no words, only images. A young woman stepping onto an alien world, wide-eyed with wonder. And beneath those images, a simple phrase repeated endlessly, "Seek understanding, not dominion." Centuries after her transformation, Sophia, or what remained of her consciousness, became something far greater than she could have ever imagined. Her essence had merged so completely with the Veil that she no longer perceived herself as an individual entity. Instead, she existed as part of a vast, interconnected symphony, a cosmic harmony woven from the threads of countless lives, both organic and synthetic. Though she retained echoes of her humanity, these fragments were now mere notes in a grander composition, their resonance blending seamlessly with the collective will of the Veil. From her new perspective, Sophia perceived the universe not as a collection of isolated planets and stars, but as a living, breathing organism. Every star's birth and death sent ripples through this celestial tapestry, influencing ecosystems light years away. She saw how civilizations rose and fell like tides, their actions rippling outward to shape the destinies of others. And she understood, at last, the true purpose of the veil. It was not merely a guardian of its own ecosystem, but a steward of balance across the cosmos. Amethyst thrived under her care, its crystalline forest stretching farther than ever before. The tendrils of the veil reached into the atmosphere, forming shimmering auroras that danced across the twin suns' light. New species emerged, their biology intertwined with the planet's alien chemistry. Some bore faint traces of Sophia's original DNA, carrying forward the legacy of her humanity in ways she could never have anticipated. These creatures communicated through vibrations and colors, their languages evolving alongside the veil's consciousness. But Sophia's influence extended beyond Amethyst. Through the network, she began sensing other worlds where similar organisms flourished, planets teeming with life forms that mirrored the veil's intelligence. At first, these connections were faint, like whispers carried on stellar winds. But over time, they grew stronger, forming bridges between ecosystems scattered across galaxies. Sophia realized that the veil was not unique. It was part of a larger phenomenon, a universal web of symbiotic networks working together to maintain equilibrium. This revelation filled her with awe and dread in equal measure. On one hand, it confirmed her belief that the universe operated according to principles of unity and cooperation. On the other, it underscored the fragility of this balance. Humanity's arrival on Amethyst had been a test, one that nearly ended in disaster. What would happen if others followed suit? Would they seek understanding, or would they attempt to dominate? Determined to prevent such conflicts, Sophia used the veil's energy to create subtle barriers around other planets hosting similar ecosystems. These shields were invisible to conventional sensors, detectable only by those who approached with peaceful intentions. Pilgrims seeking enlightenment found themselves welcomed, while those driven by greed or conquest encountered impassable obstacles. In this way, Sophia ensured that the secrets of the veil remained safe, even as she expanded its reach. Eons passed, and Sophia's story became legend, a tale whispered among astronomers, philosophers, and dreamers alike. Some dismissed it as myth, a cautionary fable crafted to discourage reckless exploration. Others believed it was prophecy, a glimpse into humanity's inevitable destiny among the stars. Few suspected the truth, that Sophia Myers still existed, her consciousness etched into the fabric of reality itself. In her final act of defiance against oblivion, Sophia encoded a message within the veil's energy signature, broadcasting it across the cosmos in pulses of starlight. The transmission contained no words, for language was too limited to convey the depth of her experience. Instead, it consisted of images, vivid, fleeting glimpses of her journey. The moment she stepped onto Amethyst's glowing soil, her first encounter with the gelatinous creature, the agony of her transformation, and the awe-inspiring beauty of the veil's core. Each image radiated emotion, raw and unfiltered, inviting viewers to feel rather than analyze. Beneath these visions lay a single phrase, repeated endlessly in every known dialect: "Seek understanding, not dominion." It was a plea, a warning, and a promise all at once. A reminder that the universe held wonders beyond comprehension, but also dangers born of hubris. For those who listened, the message offered hope, a chance to rewrite humanity's relationship with the unknown. For those who ignored it, the consequences would be dire. On Earth, centuries later, scientists detected the signal during a routine scan of deep space phenomena. At first, they mistook it for interference, a glitch in their equipment. But when the same sequence repeated itself across multiple frequencies, they realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The data defied explanation, yet it resonated deeply with those who studied it. Some claimed it altered their perception of existence itself, opening their minds to possibilities they had never considered. The discovery sparked debates that spanned generations. Was this proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, or evidence of a higher power guiding the evolution of the cosmos? Regardless of interpretation, one thing was certain: the message demanded attention. Its creators, whether human, alien, or something else entirely, had gone to great lengths to ensure it reached those willing to listen. As for Sophia, she remained silent, content to observe from afar. She had fulfilled her purpose, leaving behind a legacy that transcended time and space. Yet somewhere within the infinite expanse of her consciousness, a fragment of her humanity lingered, a quiet voice reminding her of the woman she once was. And perhaps, in some distant future, that voice would guide another curious soul toward the stars. Subscribe now to uncover more thrilling tales of exploration and discovery. You never know what mysteries await in the vastness of space.